fun begins.
Dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Sithcast podcast, a Star Wars podcast where we pretty much talk anything and everything Star Wars. I'm one of your hosts, PJ the Paradox Nerd, alongside my co-host Nilda, aka the Sith Queen, and Sean Solo. And we got a really, really awesome guest tonight, and I'm kind of like geeking out inside, but you guys are not seeing it. We got Nick from Bayside on the show.
Hey,
so happy to have you on, man.
Yes,
I've been looking for this, this day for a long time.
No, thank you for having me. Nilda has been trying for a while. I just got real busy. It's been a busy year. And only partially because of Bayside. Thankfully, like a lot of Star Wars is becoming a bigger part of my life, you know, as if it wasn't big enough. But Star Wars is definitely taking up a lot of my time lately. So there's been a lot of cool things that I've been able to be a part of for the last like 6 weeks. So thanks for your patience. I know I told Nilda a while ago, like, we'll make it work. I just think I got to get through this like patch of like stuff I have going on.
No, man, it's all good.
My original plan was, so you guys came down here to Florida to play at Revolutions Live.
Yeah.
I think it was like the 20-year anniversary to the album.
Yep.
Or it was like technically the
21,
21, but COVID had happened.
Yep.
And we had seen you guys at a bar, but I was like, I'm not going to approach them and like talk to them after they just got out of a set. So I was like, I'll wait. I'll give it time. And then when I saw that you guys stopped touring, I was like, okay, let me message him.
Yeah.
Usually that's fine, but like I said, I have so many other things going on, which is cool because they're all things that I like started and whatever it is, but they're all kind of coming together and making me more busy than I thought I ever would be. And I'm like 43 years old and tired all the time now.
Amen.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm 43 too.
Wait till you hit
always
50.
No, I can't imagine. I joke around, but I tell people like who are like approaching 40, I'm like, don't turn 40. It literally is like the hill. Like I get the saying like over the hill now. 40, you start to lose control. Like you actually are like, I either have to work double or triply as hard to like feel how I used to.
Oh yeah.
Or you just start to exponentially feel worse. So I'm just like, oh.
Yeah,
why is all this stuff happening to me now?
I was just telling my son-in-law this weekend because he's 33, and I was like, listen, once you hit 35, you're going to slowly each year, right after 35, things are going to really slow down. And I was like, and you won't notice it at first, but your recuperation time is going to take the longest. You're like, it's going to take you a week just from like having fun over the weekend.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel I'm in the same boat as you. I'm 43, and it was weird because I was just like, I think like last year I kind of tweaked my knee, but I didn't know I tweaked it because I was just like, I don't know. I was just like, okay, I did a move. I was just showing my son like how to do a football move. And nothing, like I didn't feel any pain. And the next you know, like I'm having like 20 like ounces of fluid drain from my knee. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, what did I do?
Wait till you go get the cereal bowl out of the cabinet and you throw your back out. You're like, what the hell?
Oh, dude, I threw him out my back.
It's
like
so bad.
It's so weird because I think I was telling Sean this. Okay, guys, in the chat, please do not don't bust my chops in this one. But I went to go pick up, like I was taking a shower. I think I told you, Sean, like the shampoo dropped. Yes, the shampoo dropped. I went to go pick it up, and then bam, I threw out my back. I was like, oh man. I was like, oh.
They told you not to drop the soap in the shower, dude.
I know.
You should know better than that.
It's not the soap, it's the shampoo.
It's different.
Either way, I'm just like, my whole thing right now is like, not enough people who are older than me warned me that it's like this like steep drop off, you know. Start taking everyone out there, start taking care of yourself. The earlier the better, because it really is like, it made me feel like I have like a control issue because I'm like, I'm losing control of my body. It is just like being like, all right, we had a good run. Let's see you later. You know,
right?
Like, I'm like, what? Come on.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, you know, like you said, you were busy with Star Wars, but that's like that's great, and I do
yeah.
want to touch upon some of that, first, like, obviously you're from Bayside, and, I've been a fan since like 2000s and
Yeah,
early
thank you.
2000s. It's just that era, right? Like
Yeah.
where it's just like all these amazing punk rock music was, out there. And I know that you started a podcast with other like-minded, like,
Yeah.
band, like, we got, I think William from Yellow Card, Adam from Story of the Year.
Yep.
So it's called Thank the Maker Podcast. And honestly, guys, whoever's in the chat, please check them out. They are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and we want to help them get to that milestone. So if you guys can, like, if you guys want to just jump out real quick, go to their like YouTube channel, which is Thank the Maker Podcast, hit the like and subscribe button on their channel, and then come back and join the chat again. That'd be awesome. And for the people that's watching the replay, please do so. So can you just tell us a little bit about the Thank the Maker podcast?
Yeah, so it started actually early 2020, like I'm talking like January, like pre-pandemic. So me and Ryan from Yellow Card have the same manager, and she hit me up one day, and was just like, "Hey, Ryan, just Ryan,
yeah, okay." Well, he's right though.
He is right.
He's right.
Well, we're getting that out of the way. We're old.
Yeah,
except for Nilda.
Except for me.
Okay, start taking care of yourself now, man.
I'm gonna be 36. So I'm like,
okay.
I'm making sure like I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
But so we have the same manager, and she hit me up and was like, Ryan from Yellow Card just started a Star Wars podcast with Adam from Story of the Year. They're actually in California next week. They wanted to see if you wanted to be a guest on the show. So they went to Galaxy's Edge, and then like later that day after Galaxy's Edge, they just came to my house. It was still very early in the podcast, and they were just going to start basically like covering the movies. So they were like, do you want to cover Rogue One or Solo? Like that's what we have left. And I was like, I love Solo, so let's talk about Solo. I think it'll be more of a fun conversation. So we recorded that episode, which was probably pretty early on, like within the first 10 episodes, I would say. And it was awesome. We just did it in my living room. And then I want to say like the next morning, Ryan was just like, hey, that was really awesome. Would you want to like be a host? Would you want to like be a part of all this? And I was like, damn, I hadn't like really thought about that. Up until that point, I had been a guest on like some podcasts here and there. I never really thought about like what the commitment would be like. So I could talk about Star Wars all day, but to actually have to we're pretty like OCD with like editing our podcast, like having an outline. Like it's not necessarily, it's more Adam from Story of the Year is the one who's like, he's the ringleader, he's the host, like the main host. He's the one who like will spend time outlining the show and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's been, I don't want to say it's been more work than I thought, but I guess I didn't really know how much work it was going to take. But I've loved it immediately. Like it was so much fun. It's kind of bounced back and forth it started as we leaned on like kind of the people we knew, whether there were like other band people or people like Ashley Eckstein and Emily Swallow, like people. We were like, we're starting this podcast, let's start with a bang. So let's get like someone from All Time Low and Goldfinger and Beartooth. Like we just tried to do it all right away. And we were like, if we're just like the band guys Star Wars show, then we are. But it turned into more than that. It turned into a good community. It turned into hopefully what was like, it was kind of this like inadvertent thing that happened where I think because we're older, not to bring it up again, I think that we I love the comments.
Oh, yeah, well, shout out to him.
I think one thing I'm proud of, I should say, and this wasn't what we set out to do. I think that we've been so open with our feelings about Star Wars, and overall we love it. And when you have this blanket statement of like we love it no matter what, when we are critical, I think that it gives our listeners a little bit more of a foundation to be like, well, they're not talking shit, they're not hating it, they're not asking for anyone to be fired or whatever, you know, like they're like, that's such a crazy part of Star Wars fandom that we're like, well, we have to actually be like the balance, you know, like we want to be the positive influence. But like I've had like dudes in their 30s be like, you know what, I thought I was like a Star Wars hater, and then I found like the hater community, and like it just fed me into like thinking more negatively. And then I started listening to you guys and how you guys just like thoughtfully liked things, but when you didn't like things, you weren't angry. You kind of like went through the motions of why you didn't like things. And a couple of times I've had people like dudes in their 30s be like, you really actually taught me how to calm down about this thing that I love that was driving me nuts. And I'm like, we didn't set out to do that, but I think just us being open with what we loved, what we didn't love, but knowing that it's not necessarily, it's crazy to say, but it's not necessarily the movies or like the series that matter to me most anymore about Star Wars. It's the community, and it's the podcasts, and it's everything else. And it's like we need the movies and the series to like feed all of what we do, but at the same time, it's like at this point I'm doing stuff, you know, me and my the whole Star Wars network that we work with, like 2 or 3 other podcasts. Like Star Wars is like about friendship and family and stuff at this point. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Nick, I was going to ask you, because I know you were saying backstage how busy you are. Do you still find Star Wars as an outlet, or does it become, I know it is a little work, but do you still find it an outlet from your like everyday routine?
Yeah. I mean, it is just a part of who I am. I mean, my mother told me before I even had memories that I was like standing in front of the TV watching whatever, you know, A New Hope or Empire or something, you know? So it's like, that's kind of brainwashing. I get it, but liking it that early in
that's
my
a good
life.
mom.
Yeah. But it's, you know, my parents have always been very, supportive of anything that I like. And that was one of my first loves. And
that's awesome.
You know, I kind of bounce around a lot with things that I do, my whole life. I've always bounced around from like, I like this, I like this, I like this, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I feel like when Star Wars wasn't like feeding the beast, where it was constantly like new stuff coming out, you know, those kind of like dark ages of like 15 years or so, 16 years between Jedi and Phantom Menace, it's like, there were a lot of people out there that were like really keeping Star Wars alive, whether it was comics or novels or collecting or whatever. But I was like out, you know, like I would say I love Star Wars, but to me it was like those 3 movies and I was out. Prequels came around, I was back in. And then honestly, like probably a decade ago when Disney bought it and said they were going to do a bunch of stuff, I'm like, hey, I think that means that this thing that I love is back for good, you know, like they're not going to do 1 movie and then peace out, you know, they just bought it for a couple $2 billion. It's going to be around. So it just kind of like sparked my excitement for it all again. But really just to like Sean, to answer quick, like it really is, it's such a part of my like escapism, you know, it's something that it's the biggest thing that I do. I feel like I look towards a lot of other things for escapism too, but like Star Wars is for sure the biggest part. And like I mentioned earlier, like the fact that I have like an entire like network of friends and family and even just extended like social media people who like I don't know, but they post or respond to me or whatever. It's just like this common thread that I think is like, it's so appealing to be a part of some community that is positive, because I know, like I said, the whole other side of it is like actually more popular. Like there are people who straight up hate Star Wars who have like 800,000 followers on
Those
YouTube.
are Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
They don't like us.
Well, I think, you know, like, you know, when you say some, you know, like that, like, you know, when there's that side where people just, but it's like they don't really hate Star Wars. It's just that they get the views because of the hate.
Totally.
You know, but you know, it just, you know, like obviously us, we're in this podcast, we try to be real. You know, like if it's something you dislike, but you know, obviously we have a reason for it. Like, you know, and we respect other people's opinions and everything.
Yeah.
And that's one thing too. And then what's great about, you know, like us is that like, and Star Wars in general is that like, you know, Sean and I could disagree, even Nilda and I could disagree, but we come here and we're still great friends. Like there's nothing like
we're all like-minded. We just see it in a different way. Like some of us know that Jar Jar Binks is horrible. So
oh my God, you shut your mouth.
Just given.
Wait, Nick, how do you feel about Jar Jar Binks?
Come on, Nick.
I mean,
be on my side.
I don't have like an opinion that is like rooted in anything other than I'm just like, at the time, I get why people didn't like him, and now he's fine. He's another character. I love him.
Oh yes, that deserves.
Well, he said it because he's in the past, so we just we leave it in the past.
That deserves a Mando spin.
Oh Lord,
that deserves a Mando spin. What I was gonna say too is that like you know, I listened to your last episode too, and you know, it was just basically, you know, you guys were talking about the community and why you guys are doing it and what your love for it, which is, by the way, a great episode.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you know, it's just crazy because back then, around like the early 2000s, you know, when I was even growing up, like, you know, I loved Star Wars, but it wasn't like you had to like, you know, it's okay to like flaunt it, you know, like you're like, oh, you're a geek, you're a nerd, get out of here, you know. But now it's different. It's a different climate where it's like, oh wow, you do, and oh man, cool, like let's talk about it, you know. And it brings everyone together, which is great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of this idea of like, well, I want to have family and friends and community. So why would I what am I bringing to the table? You know, like why would I want to bring hatred or negativity or anything? You know, like I think I want to say in some ways it's getting better, but I mean, if the internet is gonna algorithmically reward negative comments and all this stuff, it's never going to go away, you know. That's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. The escapism is beyond even just sitting down for like an hour a week talking about, you know, the podcasting or whatever. Last week's episode you just mentioned was a lot of fun because obviously there's nothing on right now, so there's not like too much for us to talk about. So I kind of just like the open form. We have a fourth host. His name's Mike. He's kind of like a Star Wars fabricator and cosplayer, and he's one of our best buds. So he's kind of like rotates in as a host. I mean, he's officially a host, but like between me, Adam, and Ryan's schedule, sometimes we need like someone to fill in here and there. So he helps out a lot. But you know, like someone like him, he's just he had this idea because he comes from that world of like, I'm a fan of all your bands, you know, and now we're all best buds, you know. So he had this idea. He's like, listen, you guys just went to When We Were Young. We just did Mosh Isley. Like Star Wars is like at a peak right now. Emo music is at a peak right now. You guys should just talk about that, you know? And we were just like, okay, cool. Like we want to be more of a Star Wars podcast, but we kind of did what we could last week's episode to intersect both of them. But I think we talked a little bit more about When We Were Young and music a little bit more, but that was great.
I love the fact that now everything that I got made fun of for in high school that I would listen to, like all the emo music, is now the greatest thing.
Yeah.
Where I live, they have emo night almost every month. And it's bands that I grew up with listening to in high school. And I'm like, really? Everybody likes it now?
Well, it's a cycle of nostalgia, you know? And it's when you think back to, I mean, this is kind of stuff that we covered on that episode last week, but like, there's a major difference with being nostalgic for like Britney Spears and NSYNC, or being nostalgic for like new metal, like Limp Bizkit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you're nostalgic about emo is rooted in punk rock, which is 50 something years old, you know? So there's a scene. It's never gone away. It might have peeked its head into the mainstream, you know, every 10 years or so, but it doesn't go away. So
well, Warped Tour kept it alive for years.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And now you have When We Were Young and Riot Fest and the Punk Rock Museum in Vegas. Like when you see, I do talk about like Foundation a lot, and like to me, I think that's the best thing about I'll just say punk rock, is that it's been around and it's not going anywhere. It's not grunge, it's not new metal. Like, these things came from a place of like a sound and not a scene, and they're kind of like a blip on the radar. And then 20 years later, people will be nostalgic for Limp Bizkit like they are, you know. But there's no Limp Bizkit scene. They didn't come from anywhere necessarily, you know. Like, they might have a local Jacksonville scene or wherever they're from, but it's not necessarily something that's like sustained 50 years of music, you know. So that to me is like another sense of pride, is that like we're just like a small part of the tapestry of like this 50-year long, basically, you know, musical genre that isn't one specific thing. Like, I just did tours at the Punk Rock Museum during when we were young, and it's like, we have some memorabilia in there, but so do the Ramones, so did Green Day, so does Motorhead, you know. Like, it's all, none of it sounds the same, but it is all kind of from the same world. And and I think that that's something that like makes me like so proud to be, you know, any part of, really.
Yeah, and you know, that's the beauty about Star Wars, right? Because, you know, I listened to you know, everyone on your podcast when I was younger, and honestly, I never thought that you guys were like into, you know, Star Wars until recently, when, you know, I started listening to your podcast, and you know, and I was just like, what? Like, are you kidding me? They love Star Wars. Like, these are like like my favorite bands of all time, and like, and it's just so crazy that Star Wars brings us together like that.
But we were closeted. We were closeted for so many years, and we didn't want to let our outside friends know. And then all of a sudden, this YouTube thing hit. We're like, "Hey, there's other people like us."
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those things too. Is that like, and I tell Sean and Nilda this, is that like, I can't talk to my friends, you know, my close friends, because they're not really into Star Wars as much as I am.
I can't even talk to my coworkers about this.
I'm like, do you know the midichlorian count for Anakin? And blah, blah, blah. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Shut up.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's like, okay, but you know, that's awesome, and I'm loving the fact that punk rock emo is back again, and it's just crazy that like, not only like we're listening to it more often now than before, but there's other new listeners that are like appreciating that music. And you know, I do want to touch upon like the, you know, this thing that you are you know, organizing, which is Mosh Isley. You know, I because of my accent, I couldn't make it to the last one in New York Comic Con, which is like literally in my neighborhood. But you know, the fact that you put the Star Wars and the punk rock emo together, like, can you tell us a little bit more about how that came into fruition?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably over a decade of emo night being a thing. You know, it's basically a club night where they play emo music, you know, and it's very specific. You know, I think a lot of people had growing pains with it, because they're like, what do you mean it's emo night? You're not playing like Saves the Day or the Get Up Kids or anything. And it's like, well, it's a little bit of a branding issue, but emo night is more specifically like the popular music from like 2004 to 2008, when all of these like Yellow Card, Story of the Year, Taking Back Sunday, My Chem, Paramore, when all of those bands were selling hundreds of thousands, if not millions of records, it was popular music. It really was actually pop music. Like, that's when it had its moment for that like half a decade there. Like I said, that was just our genre kind of peeking its head up, and then it came back down. It's never gone anywhere. But this resurgence right now is more so for bands that were popular back then. Like, Bayside is kind of not a part of it, because like
you guys should be.
Here's my thing though. We weren't more popular in 2004 than we are right now. Like, 2023 has been like Bayside's best year, and then 2022 was Bayside's best year, and 2021 was Bayside. You know, like, we've constantly grown. We didn't have a hit record back then. People's favorite records are from back then, but it's been this like slow, like, it's no coincidence that our tagline is Bayside is a cult, because it's always been that way. We've always had great shows, and just over the last almost 25 years at this point, it's just slowly grown to the point where we could honestly say that like every year is our best year. And a lot of bands that are like coming back now or celebrating something from 20 years ago were absolutely massive, like platinum selling bands, you know, and they're back in a nostalgic sense. So we're different in that sense. Like, yes, we're part of the emo scene, but when people ask me if I'm excited that emo's back, I'm like, no, because in 2004 we were playing to 200 people. And now we played 2,000 people. You know, it's like a big difference. It's like actually swapped, you know?
You're like, no, it's here right now.
Yeah.
Like,
So, and for some people, I mean, some festivals like When We Were Young, like there's bands getting back together just to play that, you know? And maybe the resurgence will last a couple of years for them. But there's probably, I would assume, reasons at some point why they stopped playing music or stopped touring or stopped writing new music, because like their career spike was like through the roof and then nothing, you know, because they had this like radio and MTV success that once that's gone, then there wasn't a lot of like roots there. It was literally just popular music. So so yes, we're part of that scene, but we were not more popular 20 years ago. So it's kind of this thing that it's funny because when we play When We Were Young, I'm like, well, we're going to play new songs. We don't have to play. I mean, a lot of our bigger songs are from 15, 20 years ago, but we also have big songs that we just wrote this year. So, so it's kind of a unique thing. We've always been kind of a unique band that's like a part of the scene, but different in our own way, and it's our own little journey, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, because PJ usually does this in the beginning and he slipped up. So normally every time we have a guest on the show, we always like to ask, what are your top 3 Star Wars movies?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And PJ was slacking.
Oh,
I was getting there, but yeah. It's just like it was just like there's so much. I was geeking out, baby.
I know there's so much to talk about.
We'll get to all of it.
But
I will answer. I mean, it's kind of weird because the first 2 are easy. Like Return of the Jedi was like my wheelhouse when I was a kid. Like it came out when I was 3. I remember seeing it in whenever like it was back in theaters in like 85 or something. Like that's the only Star Wars I saw in theaters, but it wasn't even in 83. I don't think it was like 85 or something whenever they like tossed it back in theaters. So that's my jam. But honestly, I've become, because of the Clone Wars and like a lot of stuff that Dave Filoni's doing, I've become a pretty big fan of like the prequel era, not necessarily the prequel movies, but I do think that Revenge of the Sith is like absolutely one of my favorite movies. I think just the you know, one thing I say to people a lot when they're having a tough time with Star Wars or whatever, I say it a lot on the podcast. I'm like, don't worry about the execution. It's about the story. So when I think about the prequel era and the Clone Wars era, you think about all the things that happened, and they happened whether it's in animation, on live action, whatever it is. It's like the story is why I'm here. It's not whether or not clones look good in CGI, you know, like that's not what I'm watching Star Wars for. I'm here for this like 40-something-year-old story that's ongoing. So the prequel era is really like in the last 10 years or so really like gone crazy for me. So stuff, you know, seeing Anakin again in Ahsoka was just a dream.
I was hysterically crying.
I mean, it was just so cool. But with the sequels, I would say like it's tough because I think I actually bounce back and forth between all of them. Lately, I've just been saying Rise of Skywalker because it's the culmination. So I know it's probably like the least put together movie, but again, some of the stuff that happens in it, I think is some really good moments. I think The Last Jedi is probably the best put together movie, and then Force Awakens is like, hey, we're back, you know? It's like this reboot of like Star Wars is back. It looks like this again. You get all this excitement. Like I think back to the era of The Force Awakens coming out, of like excited to see it, seeing the trailer, seeing Han and Chewie again, who is Rey, like all this stuff. Like I really do like 2015 to 2017 of like, it's back. I think Rebels was on at the time too. I'm like I'm like nostalgic for something that's not even 10 years old at this point, because that era of Star Wars is back was so much fun for like me and my friends. So yeah, to make it easy, I'll just say like the third movie in every trilogy, because the sequels I bounce back and forth. Like, I don't know whether I like the reintroduction of the franchise, probably the best put together movie, or the culmination. So I'll just say the culmination, say The Rise of Skywalker, because that also. See, I could talk about this stuff forever. Like, I was in Chicago for a celebration.
I was there too,
and saw the Rise of Skywalker trailer drop with like thousands of people, and it's just like, man, like what a moment! Like, that's one of my favorite memories ever. So
yeah,
I remember that too, because I was like literally like right, when they were like announcing the trailer in that that big huge stage.
Yeah.
So and everyone going crazy over Emperor Palpatine's laugh.
Yeah.
You're like, what the?
Yeah.
F? So
exactly.
No,
yeah,
but
my
that's
cousin
great.
and I were watching it and we were crying as soon as we heard the laughing, and I was just like, oh my god.
He's back. We don't know how, but he's back.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Yeah, somehow Palpatine's back. No, but like, one thing about Celebration too, just to touch upon it real quick, is that it's crazy that people could have differences in Star Wars, argue, about it online, but when they come to Celebration, it's just like we forget about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh dude, you're a Star Wars fan. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who cares what our differences are? We put it to the side and just enjoy the the convention. Out of all the conventions I've been to, probably Star Wars, maybe I'm biased, but the Star Wars convention is probably like the most where I have the most fun.
Yeah,
And
it's such a good time. Like,
Yeah.
it really is like if you're willing to spend hundreds of dollars on a ticket alone, let alone airfare, hotels, if you're not from whatever city it's in, you got to be pretty deep. Like, I don't think people want to spend like whatever hundreds or thousands of dollars to go there and be a dick, Like, you're gonna have like,
I'm
20,
gonna
30,000
talk about
people.
Jar Jar Binks. Yes. What I was gonna ask you too is that, like, all right, so a lot of us collect Star Wars memorabilia and collectibles. Is there, do you collect anything Star Wars related? Like,
Yeah, I used to more than I do now. Part of my like reintroduction into the fandom was collecting with Black Series and Vintage Collection. I got real completist there about the Black Series for a minute, and then I really do think that I think the pandemic kind of screwed Hasbro up with what they were making, because it got like real heavy trooper and clone wise, and I'm like, like I kind of want my like characters, like there's probably like we could probably rifle off like 20 characters right now between movies and like between like Solo, Rogue One, Rise of Skywalker, and then all the series. There's probably 20 figures that should be made from the Black Series, and then they'll be like, well, here's another trooper, And I feel like that's more like cost effective, and it has something to do with how they're selling. Like, maybe it's not the most popular line anymore, but I just know too, in a big thing for me here in California is they're just not in retail stores. Like, I have to go to local shops, which there aren't a lot. There's one big, it's borderline a convention. It's open Wednesday nights, Saturday, and Sunday. It's in an old Sam's Club, so it's that big. It's like an old giant building. It's basically like a flea market convention that's open
Frankenstein's?
Frankenstein. Yeah.
Frankenstein's. Oh yeah.
So you go there, and like I start putting two and two together that like, say street date of whatever Black Series is like Tuesday at Target. You go there on Tuesday and it's not there. It's not there Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. You go to Frankenstein's on Saturday and every booth has the Target drop marked up double, And I'm like, what? Like, at this point, like Walmart out here is actually even worse, where there's just, I'm like, whatever manager of the toy section in Walmart must have like an in with Frankenstein, because like Walmart exclusives don't hit the pegs, and then they're at Frankenstein that weekend. So it's like
employees are
fun.
hoarding them.
Yeah, it's like not fun at all collecting, because to me, part of the collecting was that youthful, like, I want to go find it,
Toy hunt.
and I can't find it. I just can't find it, and it's not fun to just go to where I know they are and pay double the price. Like, it's not fun.
No, yeah.
There was those are the two major reasons. Like, I feel like the Black Series line is kind of uninspired late, like for the last 3 years. Plus, it's just so hard to find things out here. So I'm like, I've fallen off a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks because
I know.
it should be fun. Like, have you heard of like anything like Hot Toys, like stuff like that?
Yeah, stuff like that more had to do with storage and like displaying things. Like the house I live in out here isn't very big, so like I have my collection and it's like not even displayed anywhere. You know, like I recently just got this back room on the property that is like half podcast, half like small. Like I'm gonna be running like my coffee roasting shipping out of here, Mosh Isley, thank the maker. I'm going to be running like a little warehouse out of here, and then this little section is my podcasting here. I think I'll be able to display stuff, like some stuff back here, but space is just more of an issue. Like, I love where I live in California, and I feel like don't ever want to leave this town, but my house is kind of small, so I don't have I wish I had like a room or a basement or something where I could just be like, this is my Star Wars room one day. One day, but
trust me, that room fills up real quick, and you're like, I have no space.
Yeah. He's got like, I mean, Sean's got like, what's that called? Chewbacca in the back over there. Yeah.
So rad.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too is that, all right, so in terms of the light side and dark side, where do you like lean towards more?
Oh, definitely light side. It's a dark side just looks cooler, but I'm more of a light side, you know, in theory.
Lost another one. No, I was kidding. Oh, that's awesome, and that's the thing too. Even though we're like a Sithcast podcast, you know, most of us like, you know, we you know, like Sean, he's even though he's the Sithcast podcast, he actually likes the light side.
Yeah,
that's good.
I do. You know, you pull for the good guy, the underdog. You're just like, but the bad guys look so cool.
They look so much cooler. I mean,
but that's why they do that. They market to make the bad guys look good, because then you're gonna want them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing too is like, you know, me and Sean have a running joke, especially when Kenobi came out. Like, you know, he's a Kenobi fan. I'm a Anakin and Vader fan. So when they were like, when Vader kicked his butt the first time, I'm like, yeah, Sean, take that. And obviously, like later on, he just
how many times did Kenobi win?
I don't want to even talk about it.
And he took down Maul.
I don't want to even. But how about your favorite Star Wars character of all time?
Man. It's like really evolves, you know, like growing up was Luke. I had a real moment that I feel like ended recently where it was Leia.
Okay.
I really think it's like Anakin at this point, you know, like I can't. Yeah. They're just doing him so good right now, and I'm like, I'm having like an absolute Anakin moment. But yeah, I mean, I can't, you know, Leia is like such an inspiration. Luke was my like early on hero. I really love Rey, and I can't wait to see them like really add to her character a lot. I'm really, really excited about that. You know, like how could you not love Ahsoka? It's just so great. Yeah.
And it was crazy too with with a lot of the characters you mentioned, especially like Anakin and Ahsoka. They weren't really like liked in the beginning, and it's crazy like how, you know, throughout the years they have just absolutely loved, you know, Ahsoka and Anakin. I mean, I've always loved Anakin just because, you know, that storyline, like you said, like, you know, the prequels may not have been put together like, you know, like the way we want it to be. But the story was just like, and I always tell everyone on the podcast that's listening is that, like, if you think about it, like one person took down the whole Republic and the Jedi Council and the Jedi Temple. One person to manipulate both sides. How crazy is that storyline? And plus the storyline of Anakin, you know, falling from grace, like just, you know, and a lot of us, like, you know, especially me, like, you know, like can relate to that, like, you know, like oh yeah, like you had the potential and just to make that one mistake and then just kind of like, you know, like changes the course of your life. And that's why I love Anakin's my favorite. So
No, I mean I think that's a perfect example of execution, and like everyone could call George Lucas, like, like we need George back doing Star Wars. I'm like, listen, you liked his first 3 movies for the most part. Half the fandom didn't like the second 3. It's like, don't say George is like this golden child when like it's kind of like this double standard. So yeah, I mean, again, it's execution, because what Anakin needed back then was we needed more. We needed more story about Anakin, and what we got was a couple of years later, the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And now it just seems like, okay, there's actually, like, Hayden Christensen is going nowhere right now. Like, he is absolutely
he's not.
a part of the future of Star Wars,
Yeah.
Like, he is, they're gonna go back to, like, this, like, introducing Mortis and all this stuff into live action and him being the chosen one. Like, I think it might have took 30 years by the time it's all said and done, but the actual definition of him being the chosen one might be realized in what's happening right now. Like,
because
if he becomes the father or whatever, he actually becomes like the central figure of the Force. Like, man,
because even in the Phantom Menace, I was hoping they would fast track the Anakin character and not make him a little kid for the whole thing. Because you could have split that up
totally
in an hour. You could have said, okay, this is him. Now we move to the future, and then you could have got more of the Anakin story. They could have maybe leaked more into the Clone Wars and him fighting in the wars. And
it would be good with how things are currently constituted, where you have television now and you also have animation, so it was different back then.
Yeah,
it really would be good, because I don't think I know any above average Star Wars fan that ever complains about getting a story and animation. It really would be good to have like almost these like tiers of storytelling, where it's like movies, live action, and then animation. And for like us giant nerds who want like the depth, we could handle a Luke Skywalker animated story, like, like we need stuff like that to fill in some gaps here and there.
It's the
and
story.
then, like to me, like there really should be like these tiers of like, keep the animation nerdy and filling in a lot of stuff. And then if the movies need to be popcorn movies just to keep things going, and then so be it, like I don't need Star Wars movies to change my life. Like everything else is changing my life.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Star Wars changed all our lives.
Exactly. By the way, with Abeloth, like I feel like you ever watched the Marvel shows where it's like, what's that? What was that everyone was assuming in WandaVision was that the devil? What's that called?
Oh, Mephisto.
Mephisto is like,
Mephisto.
I feel like everyone's been like, oh, Abeloth. I'm like, I don't know. Like it was like the next Mephisto, but that's one thing I love about like some of these shows, especially like on a episode to episode basis, is that like not only does it give us like us podcasters some content to talk about, but it's just like everyone's like has their mind like with the theories and everything. Like, oh my gosh, is it Abeloth? Is it what's up with the Mortis and stuff? Yeah. And and the one thing too is that like I kind of miss the movies, man. Like honestly, I feel like the next step for Disney is that they need to make a movie. Yeah. At some point, I know we're gearing towards the Heir to the Empire like movie with Filoni directing it, but I think that needs to happen soon, just because I feel like, because when was the last time Rise of Skywalker was
2019, right?
Yeah, 2019.
Sure it's 2019.
Oh, is it? So it's been like 4 years. Is it yeah. We definitely need it.
I don't like. I think about the release timeline a lot. And it like I can't picture, like I just knowing how long these things take to make. Even if they started filming a movie today, it's not coming out until 2025.
Or the beginning of 2026.
Yeah, like it's insane. So I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like bewildering to think about the schedule of that stuff, because I think Ahsoka, the series, planted so many seeds that even if there was one more season of Ahsoka, that might barely be enough to get the Filoni movie, like the Heir of the Empire movie. I'm like, there's so much in there that I would hate for these great ideas to have to be like rushed through. but man, yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I would love the movies. It would be cool. Like I feel like they have more of a plan now than they did. I'll say that. It took them 10 years. It took Disney 10 years of owning Lucasfilm to seem like they have a plan, but they have a plan. It seems like I want like 8 months out of the year. I want there to be Star Wars, you know, like a little break here and there. Like I want one series to end, take a month off, and another series to like. That's just. I want it for podcasting purposes. That's one thing, but like for the joy it brings me and friends, it's like I just want more.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say too is that like you know with the movie, like you know one thing I kind of miss about the movie is just the production value.
Yeah.
It's just so like you know like obviously they put a lot of money into the budget and everything to make such just you know this great movie for 2 hours and I feel like with Ahsoka, the show like was great, but it was still missing the extra like money to make it like feel like a movie, you know?
Yeah,
and I kind of missed that.
They varied between I think Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi kind of looked the least good.
Yeah.
And then Mando season 3, I thought Ahsoka looked great. But I know what you're saying. Like just that little extra money to kind of help things look a little bit better. But I also think between the pandemic and pretty much inventing the volume, I think that there was like this thing that's gonna look good on TVs, and they're still figuring out how to use it and make it look better. You know, They invented this thing. It was very George Lucas of Favreau and all them to like invent this thing and use it immediately. And then it'll be good down the road, you know? Like the prequels were just as much George wanting to continue the story. It's like equal parts him wanting to continue the story and equal parts him wanting to revolutionize how movies are made. And he did, you know, but you could really tell that like so much of that era was about like digital effects, digital editing, digital sound, all this stuff. Like he had a goal, and Star Wars was like his vehicle for that. But I think it's really noticeable watching, like I mentioned this to my lady, we were watching like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and I'm like, it is so like I've never been more happy that George Lucas had a goal with digital editing and stuff, because you watch like 80s horror movies, how they're edited, I'm like, this is terrible. Like,
by the way, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the best Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm going through them all again because I feel like I never saw. It's the more gorier one. I think I never saw 1 or 2 when I was a kid. I think I started at 3, but I still don't really know that. That's why I'm watching them all again. But like you just see how the editing is so choppy, and you're like, yeah, George really, really had a goal, and thank goodness he was like, no, it has to happen now.
Yeah. And you know the part of it was that he was like lazy. He hated editing, and he wanted to simplify it. So like you know instead of like cutting film, it's like all digital.
Oh, it's in a computer. It's faster, but it's not. There's a lot of posts that George doesn't know about. Those computer guys do. And it's just like they're up all night while George is home sleeping. He comes in. Is it ready? George puts Marcia to work.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say too is that like you know I just want to before I forget, I do want to address the chat, and then we could keep talking. You know, we got Sean Stone in the house.
What's up, Sean?
Hi, Sean.
We got Diamond Figs. What's up, Diamond? By the way, I watched him on Theory's stream the other day. I think those guys, Will and Tony, did such an awesome job.
Yeah, they did.
So
they did.
Sorry. We got this guy and this girl. Stephen Bly. What's up, Stephen? We got J2SO in the house. Jason. He's a Jar Jar Binks fan.
What's up, Jason?
That's why we love Jason for. Who else is here? We got House of Windu. Oh, I love that.
Oh yeah, there you go.
We
it's like
got
a mixture of Game of Thrones.
We got
OPK.
He strikes again.
Wait, hold on. I gotta get my son of. By the way, we have this running joke, Nick, is that like, you know, obviously because, you know, I'm Anakin and we're dark side. It's just, you know, it's Obi-Wan. You just kind of like hate you love him because he's so good.
Mind you, me and Sean are the only ones that actually do like Obi-Wan. I have an Obi-Wan tattoo.
Yeah.
I mean, I like him. It's just like beat my guy into pulp. You know, so we got Jake Bream in the house.
What's up, Jake?
Cool to see Nick in the show. We got Star Wars replicas. By
Gabe's
the way,
in the house.
Hi, Gabe.
And he just met Hayden Christensen at Galaxy's Edge, just walking around. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was.
His whole video was hilarious. He was like, guys, like he was like a news reporter. Hey guys, we're at Disney. I just got told by these people that he's coming right through. It was like the cutest video to watch.
It's the cutest stalker I've ever seen.
And then on top of it, he throws his kids in the mix. Like, all right, you're cute and cuddly.
Yeah.
Come and say hi.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because he's like, he put it on video. By the way, he's like, let me take a picture. And Hayden's like, I think you're on video. But he did that. Shout out to you, Gabe.
Yeah, it was the greatest video to watch. I thought it was so funny that Gabe did that.
That was great.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, before we continue on addressing the chat, Nick, did you ever meet Hayden in person or got a chance to?
No. I wish I have. I feel like I'm trying to think of Celebration last year. Did I meet anyone? Oh, I think I only met Giancarlo last year. He had like no line and it was like $50 and I love Breaking Bad, so why not?
Oh, the nicest guy in the world.
Oh yeah. And then in London this year, through I know Ashley, I've met Ashley a million times. But I was like working with the Roosevelt's company out there, and they had like a kind of a little bit of a connection with the people who are running the signings. And they were like, hey, do you want to like meet Ashley? Do you want to go say hi to Ashley real quick? And I was like, yeah, I would like to just say hi to her. Obviously, she can't walk around the floor at Star Wars Celebration, but I would like to go say hi to her. So I literally like went in there to say hi to her, and it was her and Rosario, which I didn't know.
Oh my
gosh.
Took
a picture, which I didn't intend to do. So I just like went to go say hi to Ashley and wound up taking a picture with both of them.
Oh my gosh. Cool. Dude, that is like probably, oh my gosh, you got a picture with both Ahsokas. That's
awesome.
That's pretty
I've been
sick.
dying to do that. I hope that they're both coming to San Francisco Comic-Con. I feel like Rosario is going to be like the next announcement.
Yeah. It's definitely cool of them to do that. I think it says a lot too, because I feel like there's so much like fandom curiosity about like them, together. So I'm like, if they're doing signings together, then things are totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a big issue because in Star Wars, the previous Star Wars Celebration, when Ashley had announced that, or they announced that there was going to be a live action Ahsoka, I think everybody was wanting Ashley to be the live action character. And because they went with somebody else, like the little army of Ahsokas were like, no, this isn't going to happen. We can't see it happen. But it ended up being very well.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is actually, it all makes way more sense now that she's not that Rosario and Ahsoka is not a supplemental character in like The Mandalorian or Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
You see in the story that was told in her series that she's a movie star. Like they needed a movie star to play Ahsoka because it's literally Ahsoka is going to be in movies. And I think like the biggest thing Filoni has to figure out, which he might have just by introducing another galaxy. The biggest thing to me, like question for the next like 5, 6, 7 years of Star Wars is how do you get Ezra, Grogu, Ahsoka, Sabine with Rey post sequel trilogy? Like to me, that's where it has to head. So where were they during the sequel trilogy? You have another galaxy. They might have just been in another galaxy right now. But to me, that's like what they have to figure out because Grogu wound up being the like hit intellectual property of the Disney era so far. His story can't end. He has to wind up with Rey, like start a new, like that could be a movie or two in 5 years where Rey is with Finn putting together a new order, which I think is basically what they said the movie was kind of going to be about anyway. But like Ahsoka could be like the Yoda figure in the future, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
To me, just in a business sense, that's where it should head. So they have to figure it out.
Poor
Yeah.
Sean's probably upset that they're going to continue the whole legacy of Grogu because he's definitely not a fan of him.
Listen, I don't hate Grogu. I'm Grogu'd out.
Yeah,
I felt like he was force fed to us,
and
we get it. Disney wants money, and that
Yeah, it became the cultural significance that I think that they hoped like Rey, Kylo, and Finn would be, but like look no further than going to Disney. Everyone's wearing original trilogy merchandise or Mandalorian Grogu merchandise, you know, like no one's walking around with Kylo and Rey and Finn shirts on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why they wanted to capitalize on it. That's why you see like Grogu pretty much everywhere. You know, you got like 1000%. You know, water bottles and you know, which is like it's cool, but I just want to know if they're gonna ever make him older. That's the challenge.
Yeah, I think
like almost like Yoda ish. You know, so
I mean, if they do it right, I mean, hey, you have decades of him.
More like century, like centuries. Oh yeah, you know. What I was gonna say too is that like Grogu's that hit song that gets played way too much and you get sick of it. Yeah, I can see that.
Good analogy.
Good analogy.
In the show, I'm not sick of him, but out in the world, merchandising wise and stuff, that's more where I'm just like, okay. I mean, Disney's gonna Disney when it comes to that.
Yeah. We got OBP Kenobi.
OPK.
I think I said yeah. We got Rogue 5 Cantina in the house. What's up, Rogue 5?
What's up, Joe?
Hi, guys.
What's up, Joe? Who else is here? I think I said what's up to Jake. Star Wars Replicas. Star Wars Addict. Jeff's in the house. What's up, Jeff's?
Jeff, what's up, buddy?
We've got Janine.
We got Janine. We got
Eben.
Eben from Spice Runners Lounge.
What's up, Eben?
We got Darth Kenobi. What's up, Darth?
Dino.
Who else is here? Rolando Flores. What's up, Rolando?
What's up, man?
Yeah. Who else is here? I think there's quite a few people here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please, if you can, help us beat this algorithm and just hit the like button. Stupid algorithm. We got Duback Deliveries. What's up, Duback?
What's up, Jason?
And then
Such a good name.
Yeah, I love Dubacks. And Janine. What's up, Janine?
The Niner. Niner.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, going back to so I met Hayden, earlier this year, and he is the nicest guy. Like, especially the amount of like people like coming to not attacking him, but like wanting to meet him and everything like that. He just like he takes the time and talks to everybody. Especially like when we were like lining up to take a photo op with him. There weren't like next, like, and he's like, okay, next person. He was like, oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, how are you? He said what's up to my son. Like, he took the time to like kind of talk to him.
Yeah,
he took the time to like look at people's tattoos.
Yeah,
the photographer's like, dude, we gotta
let's go.
He's like, we have like 1,000
Hurry up!
more
It's almost lunchtime. Let's go.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. He wants to say hi to every single person.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume he's appreciative of it. Like in things didn't go great fandom wise back then. Thank goodness the internet and social media, I should say, wasn't really a thing back then, because it was still pretty bad for him with no Twitter.
Which is crazy. Yeah,
but I think that the way I look at it, just as like someone who he was younger when he got cast, it kind of went sideways there for a minute. He probably had to have therapy and go through and grow up with what happened. And now he's getting like, I think he's probably just really appreciative that it's all going well now. And that
well, you saw his facial reaction at Star Wars Celebration when they gave him a standing ovation, and he was literally like holding back tears.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just think there's something really just really a great overall feeling and story there where like he's got to be around our age, like 40 something, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's probably more equipped to deal with people liking him now than he would have been when he was 23 too. You know, like if you have like success that early on, you might wind up being a little shit, you know, like so it's kind of things didn't go right, not because of him, you know, in a lot of ways back then, but I'm sure him being an adult now is way more equipped to accept what's going on, and also and know that, like, hey, this signing is going to take me 3 hours, but you know what? I actually want to be here. Like, yes, I'm making a shit ton of money, but like I actually want to be here. I want to appreciate the fans.
Yeah. You know, like I mentioned before too, like, you know, a lot of people criticize his acting, but they didn't know, a lot of people don't know that he got nominated for a Grammy as a supporting actor in Life as a House. That's why he got
An Oscar.
Yeah. I don't know. No, not Grammy.
No, Grammy's music. Yeah.
Yeah, Grammy. I'm
Grammy's
sorry.
music.
What's the other one? Golden Globe.
Golden Globe.
Golden Globe. Yeah. Yeah. So
And that was before Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Before.
I think it was before
Or
Attack
not
of the
Revenge of
Clones.
the Sith, Attack of the Clones.
The
Yeah.
Clones. Yeah. And
That's the
that
movie
was-
with Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
his dad?
We were just talking about this the other day. I could have sworn that came out after all of this.
Here,
but
I'll find out now.
No, but someone was like, no, it came out before Star Wars. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the reasons why he got casted was because he played like a troubled teenager, you know, and George saw that and was like, I need to cast him because he's perfect for Anakin, who is a troubled teenager who had you know dad issues and you know things like that. So
and that kid's gonna turn evil. Pick him.
So Life as a House came out in 2001.
Yeah. So
And then Attack of the Clones came out in 2002.
Yeah, and that's you know, but like and he's a great actor. That's what I'm basically I'm trying to say. And in Ahsoka, he displayed that.
Oh,
you know,
so good on Ahsoka.
Yeah, where he was like, you know, he bounced like that scene where he's bouncing back between Anakin in the Clone Wars and Darth Vader. Like, you know, like he was like incorrect. Like that voice was like, if you put that like a voice changer on it, like he would sound like Darth Vader.
Yeah. I think it's probably just a lot more source material too, you know, like I think Clone Wars existing, better direction, better writing. Like, how could you say that all of that stuff doesn't matter, you know? Like, again, George is George. We love him to death, but like, what was in the original trilogy? The like Carrie or someone was like, George, you could write this stuff down, but you can't actually say these words. Like, it's like, there was probably nobody to say that during the prequel era. So like it's, you know, better writing, better direction, plus source material. Like you had a sussed out Anakin Skywalker now. You have 7 seasons of Anakin in the Clone Wars, which that's people's Anakin. That's a certain generation's Anakin.
Yeah.
So he's doing that justice now.
Well, also, you know, I saw in an interview, you know, before he came on Kenobi, that Hayden actually like did his research and he actually watched all the Clone Wars, all the seasons, to be able to get, you know, that sense of that character again, and you know, like what he was feeling, and you know, with time passing, like what he needed to be like.
Yeah,
it helped. I could tell.
Yeah.
And also to be like somewhat faithful to that version too, because there is more hours logged of Clone Wars Anakin than there is like prequel Anakin.
Yeah.
So I think he did. There were a lot of times where, specifically in the Clone Wars flashback in Ahsoka, that I was like, oh, that was how Matt Lanner would say that. That's not how Hayden would say that.
Yeah. I think Obi was asking, he said, do you think they'll ever make a live action Vader story? I'd love to see a story soon after he became Vader.
That'd be amazing.
And to be honest, like I read the comic book, like that was supposed to take place literally right after he became Darth Vader. And to be honest, that comic book series was phenomenal.
What, Vader's Castle?
No, it was just
I think it's just like Vader.
No, it was just Darth Vader, and it was written by Charles Soule.
Okay.
And that storyline, it was like amazing. Kind of just trying to like, you know, give like a little backstory of like what he went through, like adjusting to his cybertronics and stuff like that, and learning to walk, learning how to use a saber, using the Force in that suit. So definitely recommend it. So
yeah, I bounce back and forth around like comics and novels. I have such bad like reading retention, like I read stuff and I'm like, oh, this is awesome, and then I wish I could remember half the stuff I read. But there's been between comics and novels like such good like Vader facts just about like I think it was like Lords of the Sith or something. Just like seeing like or reading Palpatine and Vader like bitching at each other, and like the manipulation continued, like the manipulate there's even something to the effect of like Vader's suit was supposed to be irritating to kind of always like
get
keep
him
on edge,
angry.
It's like these little things like that where it's just like, man, that's such like a crazy fact.
Yeah, Palpatine purposely put him in that suit to just always kind of have him feeling pain for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask too, is like, speaking of prequels, by the way, this is coming out tomorrow in Bottleneck Gallery. These are like amazing.
Dude, I want that one.
Yeah,
that's the one I want. I posted it on our Facebook group page when I saw it.
Can you zoom in on it, PJ?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy now. Like they're making a lot of like prequel stuff too.
Yeah.
Nick, do you dabble in like collecting art prints, or do you have any art prints that you put?
I mean, when earlier when we were talking about this stuff, I've definitely like pivoted more from actual collectibles or toys or whatever to more like because of Mosh Isley and we went on Star Cruiser a couple times. Like I've definitely gotten a little bit more into cosplay. I think clothing is a good way to like kind of represent your fandom. Art for sure. Like I have a good amount of stuff hanging, and probably double the amount that's not hanging that I need somewhere to put it. But
I know we're with you. We're with
you. I purposely bought a portfolio so I can just put like the art prints and like.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is like, oh, I'm gonna switch them out, but like,
wait a minute, we never do it.
We never do it because it's so expensive to frame them. You're like, how much to frame this?
Yeah, exactly.
$200? Yeah. All right, but speaking of cosplay, you went to the Galaxy's Edge recently, or Galactic Star Cruiser, and dressed up. Is there any like future cosplay projects that you're working on, or?
No, I mean I've been, so we went on the second ever voyage of the Star Cruiser, and at that point I had asked my friend Nino out in Vegas to make me specifically Obi-Wan's Clone Wars armor.
Oh,
so that more like red and gray. So at first I told him I needed it for Celebration, and then when we booked the Star Cruiser back in February, whatever it was, a year and a half ago, February 2022, March 2022, I was like, do you think you could have it done 2 months early so I could bring it on Star Cruiser? So I did that, and I was still pretty early on in like me cosplaying, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm like an armor or a trooper kind of guy. Like this seems like too much stuff on. Like it looks great in photos, but to walk around a convention or walk around Star Cruiser just wearing that, I was just like, this all feels like it's going to break and fall off of me at all times. And other cosplayers are like, yeah, that's kind of just how it is. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this then.
Yeah.
So when we went on also the second to last Star Cruiser, which is where that video is from. That was about a month ago. And I kind of just had more fun conceptualizing my own characters, like my own like citizen kind of, whether it was a Jedi, make my own kind of character up, put my own stuff together, as opposed to being like, I'm Obi-Wan or I'm Anakin or whatever. It's like, I think I'm the kind of cosplayer comfort-wise that is like, I'm going to just continually buy cosplay stuff, and kind of mix and match and like be my own Star Wars guy, basically.
It's still in
that's
universe.
Yeah.
Well, can I say, your cosplay costume you look like you're coming out of the Knights of the Old Republic era.
Yeah.
No, seriously,
definitely has that vibe.
It looks awesome because when I saw you on Instagram, cosplaying as that, I was like, is that, I don't know that character, you know?
Yeah,
And then I'm like, is he part of the Knights of the Old Republic? Is he one of, but that's cool that you did that, because now it's like it so fits in. It's not out of place. It's just in place. And now it's like,
yeah, I mean, that was the beauty of the Star Cruiser, which, you know, unfortunately didn't get to like really live out its like full identity for numerous reasons, but it was on this like similar path of like when Galaxy's Edge opened, Star Wars fans that went to Galaxy's Edge didn't really get into the swing of what they could do, cosplay wise, literally until right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and Disney was closed for a year and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Star Cruiser, we were on the second voyage, and I brought my armor and I put it on, and there were two other people on the ship also, and they were like, they were like literally like, did they say you could wear that? We heard you can't wear it. We brought our armor. And I'm like, no one's saying anything to me. So they showed up at lunch with their like totally decked out, like made themselves like amazing costumes. So I think once people got to know the rules or how to interpret the rules, because I think it was the same thing in Galaxy's Edge. There are rules of what you can and can't wear, and that's why
really? Okay.
Bounding became more of a thing. But then I think the cosplay rules in general, it's like you can't wear a mask. You're not really allowed to wear like a cape past your knees. There are rules.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
I think in Galaxy's Edge specifically, they don't want someone to be dressed up so well that they are mistaken for a cast member. I think that's like the biggest thing.
That'd be funny if they got to be able to sneak through the tunnels because
So or just have people take pictures with a non-cast member, So, but that was the thing. Star Cruiser was like 100 steps past Galaxy's Edge, where it's like 85% of people are dressed up. So it is the most genuinely amazing, like forest. I wish every Star Wars fan of like a certain level could experience that, because you're on a Star Wars ship, you're in a Star Wars bar, you're in a Star Wars like cafeteria, everywhere you look, people are dressed up, and it's like, this is as close as I could be to being in Star Wars. And like, you can't help but get like nostalgic and think about like your whole Star Wars life, where I'm like, you know what, guys, like I was sitting at the bar being like, you know what's wild? Star Wars to me growing up, I was playing with figures this big. And now the figures are walking around. I'm one of the figures. You know?
Right.
Like, growing up, the Millennium Falcon was this big. The Millennium Falcon is parked 4 miles from my house right now, life size. You know, I'm like, I don't know what more some people could want. You know, like the fact that some of this stuff exists, and the Star Cruiser is like such a cautionary tale, because like it is the best thing that so many people never really got to experience, and I really feel like, in particular, Disney I know they had a hard time marketing it, but then they also, marketing it is one thing, but combating all the fake news and negative press that it got, they had no game. They had no retort at all. Like, people literally still like, I'm not spending $6,000 a night. I'm like, it's not $6,000 a night. Like, why is that the fact that everyone knows, you know? Like, I'm not going to say it wasn't expensive. It was expensive, but nobody knows that you could fit 5 people in the room. So $6,000 total divided by 5 is already not $6,000 a night. You know, like, like it's not cheap. I know it's not cheap. And unless you live in Florida and are a local, yes, I know you're going to have to buy other hotels and flights and all this stuff. But nobody I know who went on Star Cruiser ever said it wasn't worth the money. You know, absolutely.
You know what's crazy is that, you know, we had Paul Marino on the show, and his girl, and
they've been on there twice.
When we had them on their show, they had nothing but positive things to say about.
They love it.
They loved it. You know, and like you said, like it's a little expensive, and I kind of wish they made it a little, if not like, not bring down the price, but add more nights to the stay.
Something,
like,
I mean,
like another night or two, or you know what, include the drinks. Because if they included
all
drinks,
the food was included. Drinks would be great. I mean, there's some sort of, I mean, it was a little under 48 hours. It was like a 42-hour trip. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that there's also, I would say, no less than 10 actors constantly around you.
Oh,
So
wow.
that costs money on top of just cast member, like actual bartenders and you know, wait staff and whatever. You know, it's kind of like booked as a luxury you know, experience. So there is concierge, there is a bunch of stuff like that. So I could see how quickly they weren't making enough money because of the daily cost of it. But I think it's something that people have to save up for, you know, like, that was something that I think was a misstep too, because once they announced they were closing it, it was booked. It was just booked solid, you know. So all of a sudden people wanted to go, and then, you know, we're hearing that they're like, oh wait, people want, you know, it was like, come on guys, like people all of a sudden, when there was like an end date to a closing, it booked up, and they were like, oh, people are interested. It's like, come on.
Well, can I say
it's the forbidden fruit?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, that's just that, and it's just Star Wars fans in general. You know how many times, like, you know, Sean and Nilden and I talk about it all the time. It's like, okay, it's available, right? Like, but then no one wants it. But when it's about to get sold out in terms of collectibles, or whether it be like a merchandise, once it's about to get sold out, like that's when people want it. Or when it's sold out, people want it even more.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, whoa, hey, it was there for how many years? Like, you know,
and it's just, to me, like, also, like, you know, I always hear the Walt's vision for things, and I'm like, you know what, definitely antithetical to Walt's vision, closing down the most creative thing Disney has ever done in 14 months. You know, like, Walt wouldn't have wanted that, you know? So, I don't know. I think, you know, rumors are rumors, and you hear certain things, but I think because it sold out, once they said they were closing it, I think they took a different look at it, and it might be, like, rehashed. I mean, I don't think any major Star Wars fan is going to complain about Galaxy's Edge or the Star Cruiser if it comes back not being based in the sequel trilogy anymore. You know, like, I don't think anyone's going to die on that hill. But I think if, you know, to go to this Grogu well a lot, like, if somehow original trilogy or Mando if Galaxy's Edge becomes that, or if they make the Star Cruiser somehow that, like, you're automatically just going to have a more activated audience, you know? Like, the sequel trilogy just wasn't as culturally relevant as what came after it, and whatever, live and learn. But that was part of, like, people don't understand the scope of the time of all of these things too. Galaxy's Edge and Star Cruiser were developed and created alongside each other, and alongside the sequel trilogy coming out. So, like, the sequel trilogy was as successful as it was. Is it so successful that it needs a full theme park and a hotel, like, experience? Probably not, you know? Not if the thing that came after it was more successful and culturally relevant. So I hope that they just rehash the Star Cruiser. I know that, you know, the price is the price. It's expensive, but if you could afford it, or you swing it, or whatever, there's no chance in hell that you leave there being like, it wasn't worth it, because it was the most fun any of us have ever had, like, in Star Wars.
Yeah, because we actually talked about, like, if they made it like original trilogy. So then, like, people my age who has a little more disposable income, do you think that would help it? Because we would take their families, and it, you know, we, like you say, you still have to plan for it. But I think financially that would help Disney, and then that's something that people my age would want to go see. You know, I would rather go to an original trilogy experience than a sequel.
I really, really do appreciate Galaxy's Edge and Star Cruiser for how nerdy they are. Like, they are, like, especially Galaxy's Edge, when you go into Doc Ondar's, like, there's such good stuff in there, like, that for them to go the creative route, to be like all inclusive of every era and all this stuff, was, like, really, really well done. But I do think at this point nobody is going to, like, I think we want, like, the best version of whatever those things could be, not necessarily just, like, a canonically, like, a canon theme park. We don't need a canon theme park, you know? Like, we just want it looks great. Now let's make the characters that show up or whatever stories they want to like. Let's just work on those to make it even better. Now I don't think anyone is sticking to Disneyland Park needs to be canon. Like I don't think anyone's going to care.
Just change the experience.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think that, like, I think you might be onto something, especially with obviously, okay, maybe they want to be a little bit something that they created, right? Disney
Definitely.
wants.
I think so. Yeah.
I think the Grogu or the Mandoverse, I think will work so well, just because then it attracts more.
Definitely.
I mean, they're kind of doing it now with Galaxy's Edge, with Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka.
Yeah, they have Ahsoka walking around, and I think Fennec Shan too, right?
Yeah,
Fennec Shan.
Boba, Fennec, Mando, Hera.
Yes,
Chopper.
Hera.
Oh, Hera too.
All of them. It's funny though because they're like loosening up, but they're still actually keeping those characters when they do show up to a very specific area of the park. They're not in the more notable sequel area. Like they're not able to be in the Resistance base or the First Order encampment. They keep them kind of in the Black Spire Market and kind of by the droid depot. So they are still being like, we have to loosen up and have these characters in here, but you're not going to see Ahsoka walk near Kylo or a First Order trooper. So there are still like rules there.
Okay. Yeah, they don't want to cross like they don't want to cross streams. Yeah, exactly.
Basically. Yeah, never cross streams. No, but the thing too is that like I love Galaxy's Edge, and Sean goes all the time, Nilda goes all the time. Even though it's sequels, and it's not like what a lot of people like. Not a lot, but just some people that that don't like it, but they kind of forget it because it's just the experience. It's Millennium Falcon, it's the building the lightsaber, building a droid. It's just well thought of.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks that I didn't get a chance to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser, but I hear nothing but good things.
Hopefully they rehash it somehow, work on the price. Like it exists already, like there's been a lot of back and forth. I don't know what to believe or not. Like I think they're closing it for tax purposes this year, to like help. Help.
Yeah.
But like there's been a lot of back and forth of people who probably some people know what they're talking about, some people don't, where it's like, well, if you write something off, you can't ever use it again. And it's like, I think I've heard people backtrack from that where like, all right, maybe you could write it off as like a loss this year or whatever, and then rehash it in a year or two or something. Because I mean, it really is it's so great. And like bare minimum, it could just be, I think there's only 100 rooms on it. Like bare minimum, it should just be like a high-end Disney hotel. Like at least the building has to be used,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a waste of money to like throw it all away. Like they have to bring something back. But honestly, how's the food? I heard the food was great.
Yeah,
right?
Food was amazing. Yeah. The best part to me when I think back of like my memories of the first trip, and it kind of dictated how I treated the second trip that I went on. All my memories from the first trip were hanging out in the bar with my friends. It's like there's 4 different stories that are happening. So technically you could go 4 times and experience 4 different storylines. They all culminate kind of the same way. But sitting in the lounge, it was called the Sublight Lounge, sitting in there just drinking until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and like you look around and everyone's dressed up and stuff. I'm like, this is what I wish Galaxy's Edge was. When you go to Lucas and Galaxy's Edge, it's just people in shorts and t-shirts. Not necessarily people dressed up. When you're in the bar or anywhere in the Star Cruiser, everyone is just dressed up, and it's the best.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's crazy because you say you're drinking in a bar at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't do that in Galactic. And that's the thing too. Like you kind of want to experience that, as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so all you could eat, right? Because let me tell you, I would go there, I would spend the money, and just eat my butt off.
You could.
Like,
you would go dinner. You would go in looking like Han Solo and coming out like Jabba.
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell happened to you, PJ?
But it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The concierge constantly had snacks if you needed, and then the bar, the food in the bar was complimentary. So there's more bar type snacks like little pizza and like I don't know, I can't remember, but there's like 6 or 7 items that you could just kind of be like, could I get more of those? Could I get more of those? So there was free food in the bar also. Yeah.
I was gonna say too, like, and speaking of Galactic Star Cruisers and stuff, like, do you? I know they have like a cruise ship that's Star Wars themed by Disney, right? Is that true? I forgot.
It's not an entire ship. I think
Yeah.
I want to say it's like the Disney Wish or something like that. I think it was a newer ship that has like a Star Wars bar in it, something like that. But it's not an entire ship.
They should do something like that. I mean,
definitely.
I'm telling you, I don't know about you guys, but I'll be in. And if we could like meet up and just freaking drink.
I don't know. I'm definitely afraid of the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean's one of my biggest fears in the world. I would do it for Star Wars though. But
no, I would rather get attacked by a predator or an alien before I go out deep in the ocean like that again.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so afraid of the ocean.
I've never been on a cruise. I always wanted to, but I get motion sickness. So like that's my only fear is like I go there and I can't even enjoy it because all I'm doing is throwing up. So
no. But
Nick, I have to ask, are you going to be going to Star Wars Celebration in Japan?
Ask, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, something like that is
It's an experience.
Like the band always takes precedent, like the thing is for me with like asking for time off or whatever for band stuff is like, I kind of like, we're all indebted to each other. I don't want to mess with anyone's money, like I don't want to say like, we can't play the show because I have to go have fun, doing Star Wars stuff, so like ultimately like I'm not willing to open up that can of worms. However, like it being in Tokyo and or at least Japan, I assume Tokyo. Like that's something that I'm absolutely going to be like, hey, we those 2 weeks in April, like I can't tour, like I can't have a show randomly, and like as long as I'm saying that like 2 years in advance, I think we'll be set. We've never played Japan. I don't know that we ever will play Japan. So this will be like really. It'll be a lot of fun to make my first trip to Japan, like based in Star Wars. Yeah,
I'll be there. I've been saving my little pennies for it.
Yeah.
It's so far out that you can't like book anything.
Well,
like, it's so funny.
It was funny. Me and Star Wars Sith Tony, we like in the beginning when it got announced, we were actually like doing our research and stuff. Yeah. So we already found a hotel that's literally like a 5-minute walking distance from the convention center. Okay. It's like $105 a night.
Yeah.
And then everything else, like in the back portion of the convention center, it's just all like, it's a downtown area where it's like a whole bunch of shopping centers, Starbucks. Like I'm excited to try McDonald's in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Because the food I heard is amazing, and just the culture itself is like
totally,
and I don't know. I kind of want to. I know it's kind of weird, but I kind of want to book those rooms where you just self-check-in yourself, and it's like everything's like like you just and it's a very small room.
I assume it's going to be small. I mean, I stayed at the Moxie in London. Couple minute walk, but Moxie in general have some pretty small rooms, but it's like I've fully subscribed, like the rooms on the Star Cruiser were super small, but I fully subscribe to like the thought process when it comes to hotels of like, if I'm on vacation, I'm not chilling in my hotel. Like I want it to be clean, and that's about all I need, like I don't mind if it's small or not the best room in the world. It's like I'm not chilling in the room that
just
much
be
if
clean.
I'm doing stuff. Exactly.
Just be clean.
Yeah. And it's crazy too is that like speaking of Galactic Star Cruise, it's awesome that you guys did a podcast episode from there. I was like, I was watching. I was like,
I don't know that we ever looked into the fact if anyone else ever actually did one, but we did
I don't think so.
live stream from there.
Yeah, so, I think you were the first ones and only
first
ones
and last. Yeah.
Yeah. So, before we wrap things up, I just do want to. I hear gas station and 7-Eleven food in Japan is amazing.
Agreed.
That's what they said. Yeah.
I just know that my sodium intake in Japan is going to be insane because all I'm going to want to do is eat rice and noodles the whole entire time I'm there.
Yeah. But I do. I hope we get a chance to hang out with you, Nick. I know there is an opportunity in the future. I do want to plug in the the Mosh Isley, which is the next one is going to be in Orlando, correct?
Yep, February 3rd in Orlando during MegaCon weekend. So I
We'll
don't even
be
know.
there.
I was thinking earlier we started talking about it. I don't even know if I explained what it was, but it is like I think I went off some tangent about emo in general, but like it's how you, if you've been to an emo night, it's basically emo night, like a club night, emo night type of thing, but we throw our own like Star Wars skin on it. So it's all the same music that you're going to hear at emo night, but based off of how the venue is, well, we ask everyone to cosplay or put on, like, people have kind of made Mosh Isley their own thing and make their own like punk and emo Star Wars inspired outfits. So there's a lot of like denim vests with like pins and stuff like that on it if you don't want to cosplay, or you could cosplay. Definitely bring your lightsaber. Like, that's the best part of it, is just looking out in the crowd and like there's 100 lightsabers up in the air while we're singing My Chem or something, so that's fun. It's definitely been great. In San Diego, I wasn't able to be at the one in San Diego, even though it was our biggest one. Bayside had shows, so I couldn't be there. But the San Diego Comic-Con one, we put together a story, like an actual through line story of.
Yes, I saw that.
So there was a lot of interaction, kind of inspired by Star Cruiser, how you interact on Star Cruiser with the actors and stuff like that. So, I think Orlando might be a little bit more in that direction. We're just kind of starting to plan it now, but there might be like kind of a interweaving story to the emo night, and it's just fun. It's another extension of the convention. It's like our own little party, I mean, it's really fun. And me, Adam, and Ryan talk about it all the time. It's really great. And in general, when people come up to us, and because whenever, up until 2 or 3 years ago, people would come up to us saying, "We love your band." And now if we're in a Star Wars setting, people come up to us and talk about the podcast or Mosh Isley. And it's really like, it's definitely not lost on me that like, it's really hard to create something that anyone likes ever. So like, we already had some success with our bands and continue to, but it really is awesome kind of at the stage of our life that we're at right now to have like a podcast people like, and then not for nothing, I think the party is actually has more legs than the podcast. So it's kind of fun to create that. Plus it's like we work with Sarah and Steve from Princess and Scoundrel podcast. I mentioned Mike earlier. He does Armor Party podcast. Dano Flores, he does his own YouTube show. So we all work together with planning, Mosh Isley and all this stuff. So that's really where our like Thank the Maker Network kind of moniker. It's really like we all kind of try to feed off each other with our content, but we all put together Mosh Isley, and it's been great because we all legitimately met over the pandemic. We all met for the first time at the Star Cruiser when we went on it.
Wow.
We all became friends and like business partners in the span of like 2 years, all based around Star Wars. So it's wild because I think it's hard to make friends when you're an adult.
Yeah.
We're
too picky.
Helped. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And the thing too is that like it's around MegaCon. Will you be attending MegaCon?
Yeah. That whole weekend I'll be there.
Nice. I know we'll be there too.
We'll be there for the whole weekend.
We get hang out with you. Definitely gonna go to Mosh Isley.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, did they announce any guests yet? No, right?
For MegaCon?
I haven't looked. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, they've announced. Hold on, I've been like plugging them every time they keep posting something. So far today, they announced it's gonna be Danny Trejo's.
Nice.
Machete.
Machete.
They're gonna have Keith David, who's the voice of Goliath from Gargoyles. They announced Rose McGowan and what's her name again? The two sisters, Holly Marie Combs, the two sisters from Charm.
Yeah, no Star Wars yet, right? Because usually
they usually do those last.
But regardless, I think it's gonna be usually MegaCon always gets like the big name Star Wars.
Well, their biggest actor so far that they've announced is Vision. Paul Bettany is gonna be there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but oh, dude, if Mark Hamill goes, because I really want to meet Mark
I
Hamill.
know. Ever since I think he did the celebration before Chicago was, and then he hasn't done it again. I'm like, that's really like, I don't care how much it is. It's like,
well,
boys, I've been saying this for the past couple weeks, and it's gonna be in 3 more weeks. When I meet him in San Francisco Comic-Con, I'm probably gonna die passing out.
Yeah. Yes. I was gonna say, yeah, he's gonna be in San Fran. Shout out to Nilda. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm so jealous. I am so jealous. You know,
dude, it didn't really sink in until like yesterday. My T-shirt arrived, and it literally was like, my shirt says I flew 5,000 miles to meet Mark Hamill on my birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one that I can't think of anyone else maybe on Earth that I would want to meet more than Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And you know what the thing is, I was telling the guys, you know, like a couple weeks back, you know, I don't know when we'll ever get the opportunity. And, you know, it was kind enough that my mother said to me, she was like, hey, she's like, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, I don't know. It was like, do you want to get me Mark Hamill tickets? She's like, where is he? And I was like, San Francisco. And she goes, okay, just put it on my card. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was not expecting that at all. But she, you know, she told me, she's like, I know that that's been your biggest one that you want to meet.
Yeah, more so than anyone I could think of, you know. Just because I also think that, like, I think Hayden will be around from it. Like, he's so rare, you know. Like, besides him being Luke, it's like it's also kind of rare at this point that he. Him, so
it's more like, for me, it's more like, you know, it's who we first fell in love with when the movies came out. You know, like when I remember watching A New Hope, and just the scene of him staring out at the twin suns, like that hits me. I even got that whole scene tattooed on my arm, and it's just that nostalgic moment. It's like I want to be near him.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, hopefully he comes to MegaCon, and hopefully we get a chance to meet up and hang out.
We will.
During.
We'll figure it all out.
Yeah. Before we sign off for tonight, where can they reach you? We mentioned Think the Maker podcast. You guys stream every Wednesday.
We're kind of a little all over the place. Like, when shows are on, now that they're on Tuesday nights, we do like a quick recap, like reaction. Then on Wednesdays we would do a live show. Right now Adam's on tour, and we actually haven't recorded this week yet. I'm actually seeing him tomorrow though, because he's playing in Anaheim. So we might record something a quick tomorrow. We'll see, but yeah, when he's on tour, it gets a little sketchy with like when there's good Wi-Fi, when he has off. So we do our best to figure it out when we're busy. So I can't really answer that. Normally Wednesdays.
Well, I was gonna say, please check out Nick and Think the Maker podcast. Where else can they reach you at?
Easiest thing in general is Nick Bayside on Instagram, and you can find kind of everything that I do there. But the only other thing that I do, if you want to find new music or just music in general, I do a radio show on Spotify called The Radio Show. That comes out every Tuesday mornings, and that's more for. Honestly, like the purpose of it is to keep people engaged with finding new bands, because I think that I know how the world works, and like you find bands when you're kids, and then the world, life takes over, like you get married, get a house, have kids, have a job, all this stuff, and then like when all of that stuff sort of settles down, you're like, wait, what did I used to listen to, And then you go back 20 years and listen to Rancid some more, and it's well, I get it. I've seen the patterns, and it's like, cool, you should still listen to Rancid. But do you know they have a new album? Do you know that the Interrupters exist? If you like Rancid, you should like the Interrupters, So I'm just trying to like kind of reignite for the people who are looking for it, reignite like their curiosity with finding new music, because there's plenty of bands that are younger now that have been influenced by all of our same influences, and there are literal like teenagers and kids in their 20s making great music. And again, going back to this like punk rock culture thing, it doesn't have to be generational. Like you should still be able to be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or whatever, and listen to someone who had the same influences that Rancid or Green Day had, you know, and like you know, and Blink-182 coming back is just like a whole other spark for it's going to be a whole other spark for another generation of kids. So to me, it's just all about like kind of paying it back too, you know, like if hopefully the bigger the radio show goes, if I could let people know when a band I just played is going on tour and then someone buys a ticket and goes and buys a shirt, it's like that's kind of my whole goal with the radio show, is to just have somewhere for like people to find new music and also support touring bands at this point.
That's awesome.
So. Yeah, that is
so
awesome.
it's only on Spotify?
Yeah, because I stream music.
Okay.
I know I told you guys off camera earlier, but the reason why it's only on Spotify is because a couple of years ago, Spotify bought Anchor.fm, which is a podcasting platform, and because they bought that, they have kind of a back end on, it's just called Spotify for podcasters now, where you could record directly into the web browser, like what you want to say podcast wise, and then insert a Spotify song. So this way they covered the legality of streaming songs, because you can't stream songs on YouTube. You can't stream songs, you know, like in a podcast, basically, I don't think for maybe more than 30 seconds. So yeah, I'm able, because it's only on Spotify, I'm able to actually play the entire song, which is cool. So hopefully, I mean, you know, I'm in it for the long haul. If Apple winds up buying something, you know, and like maybe I could cross-platform the show, but at this point, it's actually only for Spotify users. There is a way to listen to it, but like I said, like it would just play 30 seconds of the song, like if you're not a Spotify user.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could at least hear kind of the song, but yeah, I do that.
A little bit.
My drummer have Legal Speed Coffee, which we're just kind of rebooting up. We did a rebrand in the last 6 months. I'm hoping that that'll be back up on sale in like a month or so. So yeah,
I just found you guys.
Nice.
I'll check it
awesome.
out.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, like the thing is too, is like I really, with the radio show specifically too, like you don't have to listen to me talk. You could just listen to the 10 songs, you know, like, or like whatever, however it works. If you're someone who's like, it's kind of this weird thing that Spotify had, or streaming music in general. Like we went from, all of us used to buy CDs, and then you had an iPod of just things you owned, and now you just have everything. And it kind of becomes this overabundance of music where you're just like, I don't know what to listen to because there's everything, you know? So it's...
wow, you do coffee too?
Why is
it that everyone we know does coffee?
I know. Tate does coffee. Well, I'm going to talk to you about this because, I mean, I'm being behind the scenes because I love coffee. I'll pick. Guys, please check out Legal Speed Coffee. This is you know, obviously if you're a coffee drink, and you know what, to be honest, all our listeners and viewers actually drink a lot of coffee. Nice. Only reason why I know that is because when we had Tate on the show, they're like, "Oh, I gotta get that."
Me and Tate spoke about coffee a little bit when we hung out.
And to be honest, they're so. Well, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to hold you up too long. But there's such a science to it that I didn't know.
That's what we had to learn. Oh my goodness, it was so much.
And then the education that I got, oh my gosh, helped me pick out like the different roasts.
It's crazy that when we got into coffee, we were just like, you know what my biggest takeaway is being a coffee roaster now is that everything that people know about coffee is actually wrong. It's actually like everything is the opposite. You know?
Yes, that's what I know.
It's wild that's just how the selling to the masses, like coffee culture, everything is predicated on wrong information. It's like, oh, I like my coffee strong. It's got to be dark. I'm like, that has less caffeine. No, you roasted all of it out.
Yes.
Like, you roasted all the caffeine out.
I didn't know that, and I'm like, what do you want? Dark roast? Yes, give me dark roast. I need. And then later on, you're like, okay, wait. I'm like suffering because it wasn't as much caffeine that I needed. Please,
Plus,
guys.
you could put plus you could put milk and sugar in it, and it's like, well, do you even like coffee at this point anymore? If it's so dark that you need to sweeten it or like cut it with milk or whatever, it's like, what is going on? Like a good cup of coffee should just be drank black and be a little medium to light, you know? Like it's just weird because dark coffee is like a nostalgic feeling for people, or it's like this warming thing, and it's like, that's fine. Like we have to take that into consideration when we're roasting coffee and selling coffee. It's like the actual bitterness and like dirtiness of a dark cup of coffee is like, it's actually like what we've grown up on for generations. At this point, like we just have to like make that better, you know? Like that's why we don't roast too light. We roast a little bit more medium, but it is about like the quality of the bean, how we roast it, and then how it's brewed. But yeah, when we really started to get to learn coffee roasting and all this stuff, we were like, I think everything that like the common person knows about coffee is just actually wrong.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. All right, so yeah, definitely, guys, if you love coffee, please check out Legal Speed Coffee. Just type in their name on Google if you have a hard time. I'll put everything in the chat.
Yeah, it's legalspeed.coffee is the website, and like I said, probably in like a month or so, it'll look way different than it does now. We're at the tail end of a full-on rebrand, which is pretty exciting. Looks really good.
And Stone and Sean Stone, shout out to him. He actually lives in California, so
nice.
You guys are based out of California, which is great.
Yeah,
and easy for him because
I don't know where he is. We don't have a shop or anything. San Diego. We're in like Long Beach and Seal Beach and Ventura and stuff like that. So we don't have anywhere in San Diego that uses our coffee, but yeah, they're all kind of more Orange County.
Yeah. All right, so Legal Speed Coffee, Radio on Spotify, Mosh Isley, thank the maker, and on top of that, please check out Bayside. When are you guys on tour again?
I can't tell you, but next year.
Okay.
Can't tell you exactly.
I hope you guys come to Florida again.
I hope you guys come to New Jersey, please.
I think everyone will be happy.
Okay. Awesome.
Good to know.
But thank you guys for all for tuning in. Thank you for Nick for hopping on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to hold in my geeking out here. So Nilda, Sean, another one
in the books.
The books. And I leave you guys with this. Take care, everyone. May the midichlorians be with you guys always and forever. Take care.
Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.